Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome to Anime Relatable. We are back with, I think, one of the most goated interviews that I think is happening on this channel. Um, I think it's what we will be talking about with our guest here. I think is something that's really, really important. Being if you've been in the anime space and even in the political arena, you probably hear a whole bunch of different things about anime, and just how bad it is, or maybe how good it is. But instead of me talking about it, I brought in a very, very good, reliable source to kind of talk about anime and even the conservative perspective and thought on anime. So I'm excited to have my guy Christian Anime here. He is one of the guys that when I started this podcast or when I started this channel, that he was doing this, right? And this is when I was, just starting. I was like, wow, I wonder if there's anyone else that's trying to do this thing. And Christian Anime was there, right? And so I'm happy that he was able to join me for I think what will be a really, really productive and charitable and useful conversation to whoever is listening. So Christian Anime, do you mind explaining to the people who you are? And let's just start there.
Hey. Oh, I am so glad to be on here. Hey guys, I am Christian Anime Podcast. You can just call me Podcast or Podchan. No, not Podchan, Podsun, I should say. Um, that's what most of the folks on Twitter call me. And yeah, I do everything that's anything related with anime, but putting a Christian perspective onto it, and or more of that Christian conservative perspective on it. And yeah, it's so relevant nowadays, where I think a lot of people who do watch anime, they're either more on the left wing side or they're more apolitical, right? They don't really care much about politics. But the stuff I do on this channel is trying to point them to the different ways of how a lot of anime does actually reflect Christian values, and trying to do a bit of that outreach to that particular audience there. So definitely.
Well, yeah, I'm excited to dive in. We got a whole bunch of stuff like just like lined up. But before we do, I want to dive in a little bit of your into your Christian faith. Because this your channel is about bridging the gap, right? So I want to start there, like kind of going back.
Yeah.
I know whenever you can remember, like, hey, like you know,
Yeah, definitely. So the first things I do remember relating to faith, I still remember the story when I was so young. But back home in the Philippines, we were pretty intertwined with the Catholic tradition for a while. And I still remember one of the times we were in a chapel, and we forgot to like give the offering into the bucket. So my dad was like, "Hey, why don't you go run after the nun?" And then I literally ran up behind her and just popped in a I can't remember how big the note was, but it was a that offering there. And this is so funny because I still remember that. So yeah, we were pretty intertwined with the Catholic tradition. Even coming here to Australia, we were kind of that culturally Christian. I don't think my family was certainly more culturally Christian, um, and we grew up here in Australia in that more cultural Christianity. We started moving away from Catholicism, and because one of our or really long time family friends invited us to their Pentecostal church. And yeah, that's just super cool. I think it was really good growing up in that environment, because I was like excited for learning God's word, and kind of more excited to go to church. Which is, yeah, I think there is a value in like the Catholic Church in terms of the teaching, but I think Pentecostals or Protestants are a lot more. They certainly draw in young people a lot more and make them more excited about the Word of God. But I still wasn't saved. I think I was more it was around like 2020, when I was like properly examining Christian apologetics, properly examining, like I found Mike Winger's channel, I found like all of the Christian YouTube space, and yeah, I started learning the case for Christianity and how to get saved. And yeah, that's where I think I properly got saved there, where um, I really did dedicate my life to Jesus Christ. And I think that's one of the good things about COVID, right? It feels so long ago, but
mhm.
it was in that 20. It was during 2020, where we were all at home. We were kind of just examining our worldview, And yeah, it's so cool that yeah, no, I've been saved for 3 years. I can confidently say so. Yeah, definitely.
Wow, that's amazing. I think what's awesome that we have in common is that I think in the way that I came to faith also was through apologetics and sort of examining the Christian faith, because my family is
Mm,
very, very religiously diverse. So there's like a whole bunch of different like worldviews that's just coming in, and like it's just like how do you know, or how do you know which one is which? And I think in my family we grew up culturally Christian, but there really wasn't a sense of like, hey, this is what the gospel is. Like it was just more so, hey, we're going to church, and that's pretty much.
yeah,
There
yeah.
was really no like explanation of like, this is the Christian faith. This is why Jesus had to come. This is why Jesus had to die. So for you, right, like in 2020 and examining your faith, like what was it that kind of like solidified the deal for you? Where it's like, hey, I'm going to give my life to Jesus now. What was that for you?
Yeah, I think it's just again those like what is the reason why we believe in Jesus in the first place? And I think just examining all of those really compelling historical arguments. I love the moral argument as well. I love bringing that up to with a bunch of people because it's like the one thing which is I think like if there is such a thing called objective morality, like there is a standard of right and wrong, then there has to be a God, right? That has to exist, or else without, because I refuse to believe in a world without objective morality. And if there was no God, then there is no objective morality, right? I am currently working on a Hell's Paradise video that just discusses this. How, in Hell's Paradise, it basically says that the only place where morality comes from is either from the state or from the individual, or it's from like the Tencent, who are like these the like the godlike beings on the island, right?
Yeah.
Um, and if morality changes, like because it can't come from the state, right? Because the state changes leadership, it changes laws, so it cannot be that objective standard of morality, right?
Mhm.
Cannot come from the individual because individual opinions differ, right? You will disagree in terms of morality with other people, so it can't come from the individual. So it's kind of and with the Tencent as well, in Hell's Paradise, it can't really come from them either, because um, it's just enforcing morality through power, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure they I haven't watched all of Hell's Paradise yet, and I haven't read the manga, but I'm sure the Tencent aren't actually as immortal as they say, right? So the only case where objective morality can come from is actually God, right? Because God is always constant, he's unchanging, so and he is the ultimate just and fair God. So
Yeah.
that's the only place where morality exists. And yeah, I think that's the most compelling argument to me, because I really do refuse to believe that there is no such thing that such as objective morality. I mean, I if I was honest, like I think deep down inside, I think I would love to do whatever I want. I would love to, uh, you know, go into my sin, and I would love to delve right really deep into that. But I think there's also this side of me which says, no, you
Yeah.
know yourself that this isn't the way, right? So yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
there's that.
Yeah. I love that. I love that idea that no, definitely objective morality. That if there is no objective standard, then honestly everything crumbles, right? Like
Mm,
nothing really holds. It's like literally anyone could do like anything they wanted, and there is no justice for it. If there's no standard, like there's no objective standard outside of ourselves, like who is to tell us
mm,
who is right, who's to tell us what we can or can't do. So I also love that argument as well.
mm.
I didn't know that concept was in Hell's Paradise. I That's on my list to watch, because I'm trying to finish like
Right, right,
like different animes. And one of the ones that I've been watching that I think I'm also going to do a video on is Platinum End, if you've heard of that.
right,
Um,
right.
and that's like a kind of crazy concept that I think will be really, really good. But this isn't about me. I want, and since we already kind of started talking about anime, like when did you start watching anime? Like when did it, like was the first episode or first show that you watched that was like, oh, this
Yeah,
I want to continue enjoying and watching and
yeah.
yeah.
Now, I hate to say it, but I think Sword Art Online is I have to say embarrassingly is my first anime, and I think that's the experience for a lot of us who watch anime and grew up in like the 2010s, that Sword Art Online was our first anime. I think that's the reason why, like, because I'm aware of older people like I know Giguk and Mother's Basement. Those are like the two other channels. Oh, and the Anime Man.
Mhm.
Those kind of channels, they were from the early 2000s, right? So they've been really delving into anime for a very very long time, and it was very easy for them to say Sword Art Online bad. And I think that is true, right? If now after having watched a few of the animes from the 2000s, yeah, they're really really good, and then here comes Sword Art Online, which is absolute trash. But it's the first, yeah, it's the first like exposure that a lot of us in the 2010s really had to anime. And there's just something so cool about oh, it's sword fighting, it's VR,
Mhm.
it's the future, right? There's something so cool about that. And nowadays, I don't look at Sword Art Online like, oh wow, it's this masterpiece like I did before.
Yeah.
But I appreciate it for like, oh hey, it's my first anime, and that's why I like it. It's because it's my first anime, and I look at it with the nostalgia goggles. Um, so there was that, and I still remember when I was younger when my mom, because my mom works at the local library,
Okay.
and she used to borrow like Studio Ghibli films on DVD because they're like family friendly,
Yeah.
and they're yeah. So um, that's also one of my first exposures to anime, which is yeah, that's Studio Ghibli as well. Now, um, I still remember like one of my an older gentleman actually. It was quite surprising to me because he's been a family friend of ours. He also introduced me to Anime Lab, and that's like Crunchyroll for Australians. When
Yeah.
Anime Lab was still around, it's not around anymore because it's been bought out by Funimation, and you have to watch through Funimation now. But I still remember when that existed for Australians to watch anime through. Um, and yeah, I think one of the my first experiences to say, "Wow, anime is fantastic." It wasn't Studio Ghibli, it wasn't Sword Art Online. Although those like introduced me to anime, I think it was my first time watching 5 centimeters per second, which is
Okay.
still yeah, it's still my favorite Makoto Shinkai film, even though Your Name is also good. But 5 centimeters per second was certainly like the first, like, wow, anime is really, really cool. And I do want to continue watching it. Um, and yeah, I think I'll also talk about my anime experience in high school as well, because that's relevant to the video that you just recently released.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
I guess even great putting the question together. Like, what was it? This is all kind of gonna come
Mm,
together as like, what was it like watching anime? Kind of coming through the Christian background, right?
mm,
Watching anime from that, and also growing up watching anime. What was the experience like? Was it a good experience? Was it a bad experience? Was it like, oh, like
right.
people around you, did they not like? If you watch anime, you were like, like why are you watching that stuff? Like, what
Yeah,
what?
yeah. So there's a level of which, because yeah, when I was a lot younger, I think I did take Christianity a bit seriously in terms of, oh hey, no, I probably shouldn't watch anime, which is gonna cause me to sin, right? So I think there's that. Um, but I think like God works in wonderful ways, because when I was starting high school, just for context, guys, I know in America you have like a different school system, but here in Australia, it's primary school, which is grades 1 to 6, and then it's just high school from grade 7 to 12. So it's
Okay,
there's no middle school, right? So when I first entered high school, one of my friends, I think he was a serious Muslim at the time, so he wouldn't like recommend me like ecchi anime or like really bad anime. He would recommend me good anime to watch. um and yeah, he was I'll refer to him as my dealer, because
got,
he got anime through like he got anime through unscrupulous means.
got,
And I'm sure you can kind of guess where he got it from.
yeah.
Not legally, to say the least. um, so yeah, I think it was just me and him and like one other guy who watched anime. And I think one of my first like now I'm quite happy that my identity is found in Christ, right? But I think back then that was my identity, which is I was this guy who watched anime. And I'm glad I was in a classroom which didn't really bully me for that, but they were like, oh hey, yeah, that guy watches anime, that's pretty
Mm.
cool. And I still remember some of my uh, two friends, really close friends in high school that um, they didn't watch anime, and they would get annoyed every time I mentioned it. And it's really funny because as we grew older together, I think I did start like not watching anime through the middle of high school, but at the end of high school, I got right into it
Mm.
again. And it was really funny to see those two friends who used to really hate anime now really like they watch anime now. They have like the posters of they have anime girls on posters.
Yeah.
I know a friend who just read like pirated manga on during class while we were supposed to be studying. I just saw him reading pirated manga off of there. And yeah, it was really cool to see my friends like really do the complete 180 and start really consuming and watching anime. And I think that was kind of the same in my whole class, where there was this greater awareness of anime. And while some of them weren't as like devoted to it as I was or as my friends, but there was like this increased awareness. Which yeah, I think that's one of the good things about the internet and living in this internet age. It's because we do get we do gain exposure to all those sorts of things. So yeah, definitely.
Wow,
Uh,
that's amazing.
yeah.
Do you ever like you like nudge them and be like, hey, I put you onto that. Like you're now now like do you ever get like that or is like nah like
No, like we don't. Unfortunately, we don't talk to each other as much anymore. But I think I did mention to them like I still remember vaguely in my mind we did have a conversation like, oh hey, remember when I was the only guy who and this was me and that other guy who just watched anime, and now like literally everyone watches it. So yeah, it was really cool to see. And I think there's one of the things which Giguk says, which I am quite I quite connect to, uh, which is that I think a lot of people did want it to be mainstream, right? So there's certainly I think there will always be those people who are like, oh no, like anime shouldn't be mainstream, and I think there's a lot of people who do complain about that. But there are people like me who are like, oh hey, look at how good anime is, and I
Mhm.
want to spread it as much as possible throughout throughout everywhere really. And I want it to gain like the the respect it deserves basically. I'm less of that now because I do want to be more Christian, right? Like Christ is always my identity will be now in Christ, and I do want Christ to be known.
Yeah.
And that'll I can do that through speaking about anime. But yeah, definitely when I was younger, I really felt that. And I feel a lot of people in the anime community now do feel like, oh, hey, we are finally getting the respect we deserve. Like anime is now mainstream.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really do share in that sentiment
Yeah.
in the community.
That's amazing. Really quickly, I kind of want to get your perspective.
Mm,
Sort of just like from the few people there aren't many, right? I don't see many
yeah.
comments of people saying that anime they're like they hate that anime is main that's mainstream now, but there are those few, right, that are just like this is annoying that anime is mainstream because we used to get made fun of and stuff like that.
Mm,
One guy in that I did my recent video that he was like kind of in that space. um
yeah.
no shade towards him, but it's like, where do you think that comes from? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's a level of which like of course they do want to, I think they want to relive their there's a level of which that they want to relive their childhood where they watched anime and um they weren't like bullied for it. And I think there's that level of that. But at the same time, I do recognize there is one issue of modern anime which I do recognize, which is I know in the 2000s, in the early 2010s, there was like only one or two anime that released each season.
yeah,
And nowadays we have all the anime in the world, and like half of them are probably going to be bad, right?
yeah,
And I think yeah, yeah. So I think that's where that's where that person is kind of coming from. It's like
mm,
um it's because when it wasn't mainstream, like you got all of these, like every anime you watch was basically good. Um, However, nowadays it's like you kind of have to think about what are you gonna watch. Even though we have so much anime now, there's a level of which like not all of them are gonna be good. And I think that's where that person is coming from. That they want to reminisce to the good old days when anime was used to be good. Not to say like there are some absolutely brilliant anime that's being released now. Like Oshinoko this season has been popping off. I do love that. Um, but yeah, there's that feeling that hey, it used to be the case that every anime was good, but nowadays like you're forcing me to pick and choose and think critically about
Yeah,
which anime to watch.
yeah,
So yeah, there's definitely that feeling which I sense from that coming from that person. So
got you. So it's a little bit of like nostalgia, kind of a little bit of like, this is this for me, but also just like kind of this the rare variety of sorry, my wife just brought me a charger. uh,
nice.
so this the plethora of anime that's out there. It's sort of like, dang, there's just so much to consume, but it's also kind of like, is it kind of have to discern whether or not it's like worth watching? Is it good? And I don't know. So I get that. I get that.
Yeah.
I guess moving on, like what made you want to start a Christian anime channel? Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. What was that like?
Mm. Um, Oh, I'm terribly sorry. My computer fan is now screaming right now, and
No, it's okay.
I
We're a little bit
all good, all good, all good. So yeah, so this kind of first started with I think there was a call from Mike Winger when he first started his like YouTube tips channel, and he was like, "Hey, I have a dream of like 1,000 Christian YouTube channels." And I really share in that dream, right? That I do wish like there wasn't only like Christian commentary channels, which I feel like everyone is currently making,
Yeah.
um, but there there should be like Christian finance channels, there should be Christian gaming channels, or there should be like maybe a Christian anime channel, even though I didn't think of that at the time. But yeah, so I first like started this a YouTube channel. It was doing a bunch of YouTube shorts. And yeah, it was also a Christian commentary channel which I started, and yeah, I was a bit demoralized because I didn't get to the goals that I wanted to get to.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, there was that one of my first experiences with that. Then I think it was in the at the end of last year. I was thinking, hey, end of high school, right? I've got all this free time. What to do? I've been watching a lot of anime. I know and I know that there's not any like, at least conservative voice on in the anime space, because my channel was originally the conservative anime podcast, but I switched it to Christian anime podcast. It's got that more distinct branding.
Yep.
And yeah, because I felt God was really saying, "Hey, look, you can see this space. You can see how much godlessness there really is. You can see how much, like for example, in cosplay, as much as cosplay is really good, and I think there are really really cool designs in that, but there's also that level at which there's that leaning into perversion, basically,
Yep.
or trying. There's that real life fan service, basically.
Hmm.
Um, and because of that, because I felt God was really nudging me in that direction, that yeah, that's why I wanted to start this Christian anime podcast. Um, and yeah, it was cool for a bit. I just started with just reactions to an episode coming up, because there's one type of anime channel which I absolutely despise, and that's the channel which is like, hey, oh, yes, where they do that all the video while they're supposedly reacting to a particular episode of an anime. They're like,
Yeah.
yeah, wow, so true. And that's literally the entire video. um so I started uploading shorts where I was like actually giving commentary, like, oh, this is what I liked about this episode, and this is what I don't like about this episode. And
Yeah.
I'm still doing that now for the anime I'm watching this season. Um, and those popped off pretty well, and they that kind of started my subscriber base. Um, I also appreciate, yeah, and then there was the Bocce the Rock video, which I did, and Bocce the Rock is a Christian anime, my first Christian proper review video, and I
Yeah.
was really happy with that because yeah, that one's now my most popular long form video,
Mm.
and yeah, I will also like credit Twitter because on Twitter I haven't founded this community, but I've kind of introduced myself to this community of like they're not really conservative, but they're like more right wing anime fans who have been right wing and anime fans for a very long time now, and I've now found this brand new community to also um, advertise myself to, and they've been super supportive over the videos that I've been making too. So yeah, there's so many things um, regarding this channel which I really really love about it, like the community, the ability for me to actually make this sort of content, which is more Christian, but also introducing that conservative slant to it as well. So yeah, yeah,
Wow. I think that's what makes it like a little bit more worthwhile when you have people that like are with you in it, and it's also like they
yeah,
want this type of content because it's like there are a lot
yeah.
of channels like, and especially a lot of different anime channels out there. Um, I'm thinking about one of the more like kind of like one of the guys that I got introduced to a few years ago was For Never World, where he
Mm,
does anime commentary and you know his stuff is good and stuff, but it's like it seems like which I think a lot of spaces can get like that are really saturated, and it can be really hard to
mm,
kind of like break away and like, hey, like what if I'm gonna make it in the space? Do I have to do what everyone else is doing, or do I have to do my own thing? And if I do my own thing, is that gonna do really good? But
mm,
the fact that you were like, I'm going to press into this like this community that like is kind of hungering for like a different perspective
mm.
take on anime,
Yeah, yeah,
especially from a Christian
yeah.
perspective. And what I'm realizing, and like you've already known this, but what I'm realizing just now is that there are a lot of people out there that are like, and well,
Mm,
not I've been to this, but that there are a lot of Christians that just like anime,
mm.
right? And
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know if it's necessarily like a closeted like love for anime because they're
Yeah.
Christian, but like when when I'm talking to someone about like anime relatable, or I'm like going through the comments and just like, wow, like I didn't know that you could have this perspective on anime, or I didn't know that you could see Jesus in like, I don't know, Demon Slayer. I haven't thought that through yet,
Yeah.
but example of like, oh bet, like the way that you pull things out in a story and be like, hey, like I think this is the picture. Let's go to the Bible and see it.
Mm.
I think people really appreciate that. Um, so
Yeah.
I kind of want to talk a little bit about the conservative approach to anime, right? So
Right.
what is it about like sort of this perspective? Because I'm in the dark. I don't know much about the conservative perspective on
Yeah,
anime.
yeah.
I watched your video about with Alabama Stuckey and what was it, Michael, not Michael Knowles? I'm
It
forgetting.
was Michael Knowles, I think,
Mike, and
and there was Matt Walsh in it as well. So
yeah, and Matt Walsh, and like they made some comments about anime. I think I watched
mm.
the video with Matt Walsh, and he like he was jokingly saying that he made a slight comment about anime, but it wasn't too
Yeah, yeah,
serious. I still don't know his stance about it. I didn't watch the whole
yeah,
video. But sort of what is it, as you've been in the Twitter sphere and even being in this space, like what is it about anime that kind of gets the some conservative people so like uptight, not uptight, but like get it so
yeah,
up,
yeah,
you know, uh disengaged with it, and
yeah, yeah.
like how are you trying to bridge the gap with it?
Yeah. So I'll speak to. So I'm also planning to make an update video on that because there's another guy called I think it's Jackson Hinkle, but he was like, oh hey, you should stop. We're gonna ban anime because anime is for only for pedos and for children. And so yeah,
Oh,
like that's just absolutely wild. So yeah, I'm gonna make an update video to that because there are a few factions. Within the conservative movement, and there are a few like factions within the anime community as well, which I think will be relevant to it.
mhm.
There's also this one of the U.S. representatives for the Republican Party who is like, "Oh hey, I'm taking recommendations, anime recommendations on Twitter," and I think that was so refreshing to see as well. To
Yeah.
see that guy say, oh, hey, I want some anime recommendations. And when there was someone who was like, hey, have you watched K-On? And he was like, yep, I've already watched it. So yeah, this is amazing. This is amazing to see that there's this super old guy who has, and I've seen some of his speeches as well, where he has such a great respect for Japanese culture because he lived there for a while as well, and it's so good to have a guy like him do that.
Yeah.
But let's, I'm gonna pull back a little now.
Yeah.
So yeah, so in the anime community there are the different factions are definitely, there's a more left-wing faction, there's a more like apolitical, I don't really care faction, and there's the more right-wing faction in the anime community. And I think the more right-wing faction is like a very, very small minority. So and yeah, like Christians who do watch anime are going to be in the apolitical slash right-wing faction. But a lot of the people in the left wing faction, um, they are very, very much associated with things like the the Transformer movement. Sorry, I was just thinking because YouTube might take
Yeah.
this down. Yeah, the in terms of the Transformer movement, they are definitely really associated with that. They're really associated with a lot of social progressive stuff, and I think that's why that's kind of the face of anime right now, which is this left wing faction. Um, and I think I also saw just recently a interview between Pints with Aquinas and Calvin Robinson, and he just mentioned offhand like, "Oh, hey, all the anime profile pictures are going to come after me after I say this conservative thing," and I think that's yeah. So that's why I think a lot of people who are left wing do use anime profile pictures and do watch anime as well, and because they are the more vocal voice and they're the more mainstream voice right now in the culture,
Yeah.
that's why I think anime has been kind of tied in and associated with the left wing, which is really, really unfortunate. Um, so yeah, I think that's the kind of place where a lot of people are talking about that. Like you mentioned to me before stream, you were like, yeah, there's this person at church who was like, oh, did you know that anime was causing this to our kids?
Mm.
And yeah, no, it's not anime itself, because Japan is a very, very socially conservative country.
Mm.
As I mentioned in the last video I did on Japanese politics, which I recently released. But yeah, it's a very socially conservative country, and a lot of the entertainment coming from anime is they display socially conservative values. Um, so I think it's not anime itself, it's more like the community which has surrounded itself, the mainstream community, which is either more left-wing and the guys who are like apolitical about it and don't really care about politics, but they tolerate like the left-wing um, faction within the anime community. Now I've there is there is, as one of my long-term goals is that there's also the right-wing faction within the anime community, which is very prevalent on 4chan, Twitter, and yeah, I've been interacting with them for a long time now, and yeah, they are quite conservative, right? Well, there are some like the right wing faction is quite diverse because there's more moderate conservatives, there are like proper right wing people, and there are more like those on the fringe right as well. So it's a very, very diverse group, but I do want that to be more like we should be the ones who are the mainstream voice of anime, and we should be the ones to portray like this positive message of anime, which isn't necessarily associated with these left wing social movements, but is more like, hey, it's just entertainment, and we just watch this because it's good entertainment, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that is certainly one of my long term goals, which is why I wanted this platform. I want to grow this platform. There is a reason why my banner says the leading Christian voice on AniTube. It's because I do want this platform to call out conservatives when they say really stupid stuff like that, like, oh, anime is satanic, or
Mm.
anime is going to make your kids trans. um, and I think there are people who have caught on to that. So if you haven't seen recently, Andrew Tate has been recently posting images of himself and photoshopping like anime women with him as well. I might send you a few links to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, Andrew Tate is well, I'm sure he hasn't watched a single episode of anime, but he's like started photoshopping himself with anime waifus. So it's and
Wow.
yeah. So I think Tate Tate recognizes, because he's not really he's not really a right-wing person. He's just more of a um he's more of that person who's kind of moderately conservative, kind of conservative. But he recognizes that a lot of his fan base does watch anime,
Mhm.
and because of that, in order to appease the anime crowd, he has kind of done this where he's photoshopped himself with anime waifus, which is, I think he recognizes it. So why don't and I think Matt Walsh did recognize it for a second when he had like that backlash on Twitter after he said that anime was satanic, um, because he recognized that as well. I think a lot more conservatives do need to recognize that there are people who do watch anime who um, are more conservative and do feel and who are also Christian and do feel betrayed when conservatives say stuff like anime is for pedophiles, or anime is gonna cause is gonna turn your kids into transformers, basically. So
Yeah.
yeah, there's that.
Wow. Man, I'm always fascinated when I do see, mostly when I see the conservative reactions towards anime. I'm mostly getting them from you because I'm not on Twitter like that, so like
Yeah,
I have no idea what's going on in the Twitter space. Um, but definitely when I do see the kind of these responses like from the the conservative side dealing with anime, yeah, it's just not the greatest, and I think it's just like kind
yeah,
of sort of a I guess a lack of awareness of of the many different interests that like people have. 'Cause I'm sure like when it comes to different interests that conservatives could like something, but then the anime side could be like, hey, that's not a great look for being
yeah,
a person. So it's kind of like
definitely.
how do they toe the line as far as like talking about anime. And I think I think I mentioned this in my last video that like anime has like, and anime has taken over the world. So I feel like
Yeah,
sort of being in a position of saying that anime is this way is not a very productive,
yeah,
and like, it's not a very
yeah,
productive thing to do, because now
mm,
you kind of push people that may be apolitical, right? And you want to
yeah,
win the side. It's like, okay, you just now push the these people, not probably not to the left side of things, but more so you
yeah,
just didn't move them any closer to your position, because you
yeah,
now
yeah,
talked bad about something that is probably very near and dear to people that like, you
mm,
know, like anime. Like I have a friend who in our in our college years that like he great guy, but all he would do is watch anime, and like
right,
he kind of found that as a sort of comfort, right? To
mm,
of him like kind of getting through life, and he's doing well now. I don't know if he watches anime as much. I don't think he does. I think I talked to him recently. He doesn't watch it as much anymore. But it's for
mm,
him something that got him through necessarily. I don't want to say it got him through life, right? But it was something that kept him like
mm,
kept going. And I think the danger for conservative people or anyone to kind of just take this perspective with anime is just kind of like it closes people off to what you want to say to them. Uh,
yeah,
very,
yeah,
very, which is very unfortunate, right?
mm,
Like so how would you like go about for a conservative, like leading conservative figures, like how
mm,
should about dealing with the anime community, especially because you have like that side of like I do want to talk about a little bit of the side of the anime community that's kind of like, I want to use my words carefully, kind of crazy, right? They're
yeah,
not crazy, like they just like on the opposite side of Jesus, like hey,
yeah,
they're
yeah,
where they how they think about things, how they talk about things, like cosplay, like
yeah,
all of that, right? It's like kind of just not where it needs to be. um
yeah,
so how should they engage with the anime community
yeah.
from perspective?
Yeah, I'd love to speak to that. And I've just I see you chat, by the way, and I know you're like, hey, Walsh and Knowles were joking. No, I know they might have been joking, but when you say this sort of rhetoric, like, oh, anime is satanic, um, it's not a good look, right? It's
Yeah.
not a good look. Um, I think even when you're joking, you we have to understand that this is a community which really does hold anime quite dearly, because I can speak to it from when I was definitely younger as well. That it's something that it's nice to wake up to, like in the morning, to watch some anime, to just chill out, right, before you go to school, or when you come home from a long day at school and you just want to like chill out and watch some anime, right? So I think for a lot of people, that's what it is for them when they do watch anime. In terms of how conservatives should be interacting with it, I don't think, like, even if you say it in a joking manner, I just saw Redeemed Zoomer um, in his Q&A just recently. I know he was joking, but yeah, when you say that sort of stuff, immediately you're going to alienate a lot of people. So I'm not saying don't talk about all of anime. I'm just saying, like, for a lot of conservatives, I think it would be cool if they just interacted with, maybe just watched an anime or two, in order to have an open mind about it. Because yeah, approaching it from that perspective would certainly help out in terms of understanding that. Um, and sorry, I've just forgotten the second part of your question.
No, no, you're fine. I kind of
Yeah.
wanted to follow up on that. I'm forgetting where it is in Proverbs, but I think
Mm.
there's a proverb that says like it, a fool makes a joke, but then he like he takes it back. He says he was only playing,
Mm.
and like you can't
Yeah, yeah,
say things that you might actually mean and then decide to take it back once you get backlash.
yeah,
It's not productive because now you blow up that means of like communication of even like
yeah, yeah,
trying to come to an understanding, trying to win somebody to your side. It's just not helpful to make those types of jokes.
mm,
Because like kind of the same way that you would engage with any type of community, right? And I think I don't know, and definitely feel free to push back on this, where it's like
yeah,
I think in an extreme, on an extreme conservative side, that there's a lot of like making fun of, and I think
yeah,
that
yeah,
that is the reason why it kind of blows up, like sort of the means of communication, because you don't really win anybody from, from like loving, like not I want to say loving, because I think conservative Christians at least are loving, right?
mm,
But there isn't sort of like when you make these sort of remarks, you kind of to them at least it's not loving. It's like
mm,
you're just slandering them. You're making fun of
mm.
them. You really want to get their perspective, um,
Yeah, yeah.
which it's just not helpful.
Yeah, 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 definitely, definitely. I'll bounce off of that because I think so much of what you've said is true right there. Because yeah, like again, the reason why I've started this channel as well is it is a method of trying to outreach to people. And I feel that is so much more productive to say, oh hey, look at this anime which we've all enjoyed together. Look how good it is. Let's also talk about as well how Christian values do emanate from that, and that's so much more helpful than saying, oh hey, oh wow, anime's for kids, you should stop watching it. So yeah, there's that level of which that you are alienating a lot of people. And mind you, a lot of these people are very apolitical, right? They're not going to be pushed over to the left-wing side, but they're certainly not going to show up for you, uh to vote for you, if you for your movement, if you're going to say this sort of stuff. And yeah, I think there's that level of which, like, yeah, obviously, for me, I'm not that person where I make anime my identity, but
Yeah.
there are a lot of people who do make anime their identity. um and considering it's something that's not as bad as like the LGTV issue,
Mhm.
so like they do hold on to that identity. And I think it's easy for people who hold to anime as their identity to, push them away and say, put your identity in Christ as well,
Yeah.
rather than putting your identity in anime as well. um yeah, yeah, there's that level, I think, which is, it's very unproductive, it's very unhelpful when you say this sort of stuff, especially if you I don't think it's helpful as well, because considering all of the issues that
Mm.
conservatives and those on the left disagree with, anime should be something that we should, like, at least not touch, or
Yeah.
at least it shouldn't be like the conservatives shouldn't be seen as like anti-anime. Um, I think it's also something that I saw just recently from Romanian TV, which is that's the name of the channel, by the way, Romanian TV. And he was saying, like, if conservatives are going to say this sort of stuff, like, stop watching anime, like, where are they going where else are they going to watch? Like, are they going to watch Western media? Are they going to watch
Mhm.
Disney, which you guys also really dislike? Are you going to watch reality TV? So yeah, when there is no offering of an alternative from the conservative side, then yeah, you are certainly going to alienate people. And if you're going to say to them, oh hey, no, just do other things, like, you're not helping. in this conversation. So yeah,
Yeah.
definitely a level of which, no,
Yeah.
you go.
What I will say, like with the sort of just the I think one of the conservative outlets that has been like they've been more like productive on that front of like I guess in a way talking about something and offering a different outlet is the Daily Wire. I think that they're like sort of the I think the biggest platform where they're just like, hey, like this media outlet isn't good for you. Here's an alternative for you to like
Mm,
have like I think they were creating movies and shows and stuff
yeah,
like that. So I think they in some ways even if I think their rhetoric isn't helpful, at least in some aspects they offer something. I
mm,
honestly, I would not be surprised if like the Daily Wire gives like a little anime sector of their space. I think that would
yeah,
be.
yeah,
I mean, if they ever come across this, I think that would be a huge win. They got the budget for it. I think they
yeah,
do.
yeah,
But yeah, but like you said, I think that's all very true. I wanted to, and I think this goes into the next question. I wanted to read this comment. And by the way, guys, chat. Like, if you guys do have questions, like I think there would be a time for like Q&A. Definitely put them in the chat, and we'll get to them as best as possible. We can't. It's like 10 o'clock at night over here, so I can't go all night.
yeah.
So, but I definitely want to read this from Hamster Sketches, and she says, "You can't ignore the actual satanic sector of anime, and a lot of it is good. And she's a weeb, but we have to discipline ourselves and hold ourselves accountable." So
Mm,
you do a lot of video reactions of sort of what makes a Christian anime and what doesn't make a Christian anime.
yeah, yeah.
At least for this part, what for you defines a Christian anime? Um,
Right,
yeah,
right. Yeah, so I did have a video on that, but I'm probably gonna update it pretty soon. But what makes a Christian anime to me right now is, first of all, it can't be like promoting satanic stuff, or it can't be promoting stuff that's ungodly, right?
yeah,
So that would disqualify all ecchi anime, or even hentai, right? That would be
yeah,
disqualified. Um, though for a Christian anime to be also Christian, it should have some level of which that if you're gonna watch it, it's gonna edify you, or it's gonna like you're gonna bring glory to God by watching this show. Um, and yeah, I think that's the core uh, in which why do we watch media as a whole in the first place. It should be that everything that we're watching, right, whether it be YouTube, whether it be when you go to the theaters, or whether it be on Netflix, or whether it's anime, or even just literature, right, a
mm,
lot of literature is not very edifying. It's not going to help you. It's not helping you if you're just reading through a news article only to get depressed over what's happening in the world, right.
yeah,
You should be viewing entertainment through a means of something that edifies you, or something that brings glory to God, or something that just calms you down, um, and something that just entertains you,
yeah,
um, but in a way which is not ungodly. So yeah, that's all of those things which I am considering when I am writing these scripts for what makes a Christian anime. I know there was a lot of I just recently delved into Ruslan's Discord server,
yeah.
and I found out that they were talking about me because
Oh,
yeah, this was like the day beforehand, and I joined the server, and then I was looking through the chat logs because apparently they were talking about me like the night before.
yeah,
And yeah, there were some things on there which I think I took on board in terms of if there's fan service in anime, is that something that's gonna edify you, right? And
mm,
I think that's why in some of my videos I do put up a warning, which is if there's fan service in there is fan service in this. So if you do struggle with that particular sin issue, then you probably shouldn't watch it, right?
yeah,
So yeah, that's something that I'm constantly considering now, considering that I am a much I'm reaching a much bigger audience now, and
yeah,
something that I'm aware of that I don't really want to cause people to stumble.
mhm,
So in terms of like fan service, right? I don't think a lot of people are like, for the vast majority of people, when you see fan service on the screen and it's animated, you're not gonna be caused to lust. And honestly, that's kind of my position as well, which is I'm not gonna I am not lusting after cartoon, like an anime character or a cartoon character or some image, just because I see it. But I know there are some people who do struggle with that sin issue, and for them, I think it's not only that you shouldn't watch any entertainment whatsoever, but you really need to be working on this sin issue yourself. So yeah, that's something that I'm aware of, in terms of what my audience, whoever is watching this, if they're struggling through this particular sin issue, then you probably shouldn't be watching stuff. But if you are, then yeah, I'm kind of okay with especially if it's just a bit of mild fan service and it's not really showing anything too bad. Then yeah, I'm a bit more tolerant of it. So yeah, so just in summary, so a Christian anime can only be Christian uh, if it's not like promoting ungodly values, and if there is something that is edifying about it, that when you watch it, you're going to be uplifted, and also it has to also be a good anime, right? For my standard as well. So
yeah. I got you. Do you ever get the pushback from non-believer people, like sort of just non-believers that just they like anime, they enjoy anime, but they don't don't want the Christian like perspective on it? You get those people like, hey, you like this anime isn't necessarily about Christianity. You can't just do that. Like I've gotten those responses before where it's like, hey, like especially for being with other Christians, sort of like making all of anime demonic, especially like I think for me it's like fan service is sort of like, like I don't get bothered by it, but if it causes you to stumble, you should probably not watch it. Don't do it, right? Same like when you think about like things like Naruto, you think about things like Demon Slayer, you think about anime like Black Clover, where it's like sort of they have these elements of like being in a way boosted by these sort of the outside forces that aren't godly. And like they get powers from it, they overcome by it. They pretty much looked at the hero for sort of honing the skill of like of the demonic force or energy or being them. And a lot of people are like, hey, you probably shouldn't watch Naruto or any of these things because it deals with demons and everything like that. But I think my response to that, or my take on that, is like I don't think the anime itself is glorifying demons or anything, but it's showing the protagonists in which they have to deal with and how they're overcoming that. And granted, the demon part is like, hey, if you believe that you're gonna watch this and you're gonna like all of a sudden have a demon come inside you probably should stay away from it, right? But like put in perspective, like what I think is just like really hard. I think sort of even getting in the conservative perspective, but also the Christian perspective too, where we kind of look at anime as like this like it can't have anything that's contrary to the Christian worldview, as if the where anime comes from has a Christian worldview in the first place. I know that there are Christians in Japan. That's reality. I think there's all over the world, but it's like to basically say that like if it displays these values or whatever, that means you can't watch it. Christians shouldn't watch it. It's gonna cause you to stumble, or in some extreme cases, cause someone to like lose their salvation. I think it's I don't know. I think it's an annoying stance, but I think that's why your channel, my channel, I think that's why it's here, just for to be like, hey, like this as bad as you think it needs to be. Like I think there's some middle ground that we could come to, and in some way you could pull some really good things out of it. I think I refer to C.S. Lewis's Chronicles of Narnia and where they take these like these concepts of like these magical beings and all these different things, and they use them to point people to the grander story. And I think my motto in that is just like, hey, like this is what it's supposed to be. Like viewing these anime or viewing these stories in a bigger picture and saying like, hey, like it's bigger than this. It's supposed to point you to the true story, even if it does have some like really crazy elements in it. It's kind of wild, but let me what are some, I guess we can answer this question before my last one. How do you feel about anime and manga being more successful than Western entertainment?
So okay, from my perspective as well, like based that is like it's complete Japanese, it's complete anime manga supremacy over Western entertainment. So I think it's very, very based. And I love it that you know, again, like speaking from my younger self, yeah, my younger self would definitely say, look at all the Western media currently failing. Look around you, and now anime is finally being recognized for how good it is. And I think it is a testament as well to see that there's a lot of people who are apolitical. They did used to watch Western entertainment. They recognize now it's pretty bad. So now they're looking to anime. And again, speaking to that, which is it's unhelpful when conservatives say, "Oh, that's really really demonic," right? Because a lot of those people who are transitioning away from Western entertainment are looking to anime because that's where all the good stories are, and that's where all the
Yeah.
really meaningful, really uplifting stories are. Unlike in a lot of Western media, which is just trash right now. There are pretty good there are pretty good stories. But yeah, there's a lot which I refuse to watch a lot of Western media now. So yeah, there's that. So yeah, yeah.
Yeah. When I first heard about the plot of Demon Slayer, the whole sister being a demon did seem sus to me. I did watch a bit of it, a bit of the show. Yeah, no, like
Mm,
I get that, but the plot of the show really is about Tanjiro trying to save his sister from and defeating the upper rank demons to heal his sister. That's sort of the whole
mm.
plot. Like I think
Yeah, yeah.
the reason why like this thing that why Tanjiro wanted to become a demon slayer was to save his sister. So I think looking at it from the surface, if you're just watching the first episode or first couple of episodes, it's like, oh, like this is kind of weird. Why would his sister turn into a demon? And obviously like his sister is helping him defeat the upper rank demons, which means there's some sort of like uh she also wants to be saved too. Like I don't think she wants to be a demon, right? I don't know if there's some sort of consciousness that is there, with Tanjiro's sister, but like the whole plot of it is for it to save his sister and
Mm,
save her from being a demon. So if you started watching it, you should probably watch a little bit more because it's really good. Not on, the plot is it's not the greatest, right? It's not gonna like blow you away. Animation is great, and I think I have to stand on that.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
uh,
I have heard a lot about Demon Slayer as well. And okay, this is the perfect example of why we as Christians and why conservatives shouldn't overreact. It's because when we hear stuff like, "Oh, what? There's demons in this. Oh my goodness, it must be bad." No, maybe if you watch the show, you would actually know how like you would actually know the context that they're actually trying to destroy the demons.
yeah,
So yeah, there's that level of which like yeah you we really should we shouldn't be like the cancel culture mob, right? We
mhm,
should actually think about the claims that are being circulated, and we should actually think about these things quite critically. Or else, yeah, we're when there's that rhetoric, which we do say, we do need to be aware of the stuff that we say, because it will other people will look at us and say, "Wow, that's a bit wacky.
yeah,
Maybe I won't hang out with those guys."
yeah,
And that's not to say that there is a time and place where we should be speaking the truth, and there is a time and place where we as Christians should be, pushing out our agenda. But on these issues like Demon Slayer, where we get all uppity about it, then yeah, it's just not helpful in that discourse, and it's not helping us to go and outreach to those people. So yeah.
yeah, yeah. What I find interesting is that like a lot of our or at least Christian culture, uh, is it's just like a lot of it's just isolation, right? It's like, hey, we are now
Mm,
saved. We now know Jesus. We've been saved from the
mm,
bad things that we used to do, and now we're saved to greater things in
mm,
Christ. Now we're gonna isolate from the rest of the world and not necessarily engage with it. But it's just like the opposite for us, right? Where it's like Jesus tells us to go out into the world and to preach the good news of the gospel and make disciples. It's like and you're supposed to be salt and light. It's like how you necessarily do that if you're trying to cancel everything. All right, like
mm,
I think kind of thinking about just a connection point for this for different anime, right? And I'll just use Demon Slayer as an example where it's like, hey, you have Demon Slayer and like you might have friends that like Demon Slayer, right? But you blow up that bridge in a sense if you just say like, hey, Demon Slayer has demons in it, so I'm not going to watch it. It's like you kind of think a little bit, right? I don't think our faith is just like it's not, you don't have, you can think about, our faith and how to like uh engage with the culture in a way that's not going to be disrespectful, but also is going to connect with the people that you're trying to reach, right? So I think there are creative ways to be able to do that, not just blow it up and say that it's very demonic. Anyway, last question. What do you want from the, I guess, conservative movement going forward, as far as like
Mm.
how they engage with anime? What are your hopes for that? I think you talked about a little bit about it. But
Yeah.
what the conservative movement as far as like engaging with the anime community? And yeah, what are in yeah, what are some hopes for your channel? I guess
Yeah.
you said it a little bit, but if you want to flesh out a little bit more in detail, and also adding in where people can find you and everything, and that would be great.
Yeah. Yeah. All good. All good. Yeah. We'll conclude with this point because I did speak to this on my stream last week. But yeah. So in terms of conservatism, look, I don't have. I think the reason why I used to call myself a conservative Christian, and I still kind of hold on to onto that identity. But I find my identity now in Christ, and the reason why is because I think conservatism, I do not have a lot of faith in it. Right? There, yes, and the reason why is because when we say this sort of stuff, that when conservatives do say a lot of this stuff, you're not winning on certain culture war issues. Um, and yeah, I think in terms of the conservative movement, I think there needs to be a lot of reform in terms of that we need to be known what we are for rather than what we are against.
Yeah.
And this channel hopefully is one stepping stone to that, which is we are for Christian anime, or we are for anime which is going to edify you, which is going to be good to watch if you're going to watch it. And this we are for anime which actually tells good stories
Mm.
rather than entertainment, which is only meant to bog you down and only meant to, keep you stuck to the screen. Um, there is, I will say, I think I have, now that I've kind of grown a little more. I have now interacted with a few with a few Christian VTubers actually, because I was surprised that there were Christian VTubers in the first place. And yeah, although I haven't really interacted with them, but I found them, right, and it surprises me that there is there's this other community which is now like I'm able to connect with and able to create content for. Um, so yeah, that in terms of my channel, like this, the whole purpose of this channel is meant to be for outreach. Like that is the ultimate goal, which is to outreach to people who are non-believing. They do watch anime though, and that's one way we can outreach to them. But also to act as a service for Christians who are kind of like I wish when I was younger as well, when I was more culturally Christian rather than a proper believer in Jesus. I really do wish when I was younger as well that my sort of channel existed, where
Mm.
we talked, where my channel talks about, hey, this is some anime which is really cool that you can watch, and it's probably safe to watch, and you should watch it, right?
Mm.
Because yeah, growing up, I think a lot of the stuff on AniTube was very very provocative in terms of every YouTube thumbnail had like a provocative image of like of a scantily clad anime woman. So yeah, there's that. So yeah, in terms of my I have certainly ambitious plans for my channel. I think my next goal is to really fulfill that mandate, which is the leading Christian voice on AniTube. The reason why I say this is because there are two other channels that I know of, which are a lot higher in terms of subscriber count and reach, and
Yeah.
those two are Cultured Crusader, who I've talked to a lot, and he's really good. So he does a lot of anime reviews, but they're like from the 2000s. So I don't think he does any new anime reviews. Um, I think he did one, but he mainly focuses on like really old classic anime. And there's another guy, yeah, and there's another guy called PaxTube, and he used to talk a bit about anime, and he does talk about anime on Twitter. I don't think we're on good terms just yet, but yeah, he's kind of pivoted to that um, Christian commentary now side of things, which is, yeah, which is unfortunate. But he's still at 25,000 subscribers now, which technically makes him like the leading Christian voice on AniTube. And I
Yeah.
think that's currently my goal, which is I do want to be I do want this platform, I do want this channel to be the leading Christian voice on AnyTube. The reason why that's my goal is so that we've actually got a platform. We actually have a proof of concept that this sort of audience exists.
Yeah.
And when we when that audience, when that platform goes out and says to certain people like, no, we do actually like anime. Anime is actually a conservative thing, and whenever conservatives say really stupid stuff about anime, then maybe perhaps that they would listen to someone with a pretty sizable platform. That
Mm.
no, I think you're being unreasonable when you say that anime is really bad and for kids or satanic or things like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's also another audience which is I'm kind of appealing to, which is the conservative who doesn't really know much about anime, but they only know about it because of the Mr. Beast thing.
Mm.
And yeah, that's also another audience, which is I'm saying no, actually, it's pretty safe. And if you do want to watch what your kids are watching, then these are like the safe anime that you can recommend to your kids as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of those things which I've got plans for.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's
Wow.
that.
Now, I'm a huge believer in like in the growth of your platform, bro. Because I'm like there are like the appeal of like you're in a specific niche, but you're also appealing to a bunch of different audiences. And
Mm,
I think the main one too is the parents that are concerned about what their kids are watching. If they're giving
mm,
reviews, like if they're giving reviews about what is considered a Christian anime or what is safe for your kids to watch or not watch, I think that really does a good service to the people that are like wanting to at least for the kids that like not for the parents that aren't necessarily trying to control the content, but more so they're
yeah.
trying to like just steward and their children's lives well and what they consume and stuff. Because like in one way or another, everything that we consume is discipling us. And it's just a matter
Mm,
of what is that going to be. And I think what you're doing is doing a really great service. And I think Ruslan talks about this. I think Sean Cano talks about this. Another Christian
yeah.
that if your platform is for service, like I think it's going to do well because that's what like
Mm,
I think we're as Christians, as humans, like we were made to serve. That obviously got twisted in the fall, but because we're now in Jesus, that's the purpose, right? And whatever we're doing, so I think you have a really good. I think you are the leading Christian YouTuber.
yeah.
I think really well, man. I don't say that as flattery. I think I really believe like anyone I'm
Mm,
interviewing, whether it be manga artists that I know or friends that come on the channel that do anime stuff, that like, hey, like I think what you're doing is of value and needed, and I think that's I'm excited about the growth. And I'm excited,
right, right.
because your community is really really great. So
Yeah, thanks so much. That's so heartwarming to hear. And I really am glad to hear that sort of stuff because yeah, I think there are so many times when I'm just demoralized sometimes when conservatives say stupid stuff. But yeah, when people like you or people from my community say that, oh hey, I think what you're doing is actually worth it, then yeah, it gives me the drive to continue forward. Um, and yeah, I think God also kind of gives me that. Christ also gives me um, that drive to do it. But I'm really happy when I hear other people say that. Oh, hey, this has been so helpful to me. Like what I'm doing is actually worth it, and I'm really glad to be able to do that. So yeah, yeah,
well, it definitely is. Let me couple comments before we get out of here. I recommend Christ X Comments. I follow him on TikTok and he does really, really great stuff. I would want to reach out to him. Like he gives really great perspective. I think that's how I found that guy going to the Comic Con and doing his poem. Like that's how I found out about what he did. But Christ X Comics is really good. Um, I agree. Mainstream anime people can be helpful, but not the best in form of pointing us to the right
mm,
things. Um, but yeah, um, I think that's all. I think we covered a lot. Where can people find where you do your content? Do you have a
yeah,
Patreon? Do you
yeah.
Discord, Twitch, all of that? Where can you find you at?
Yeah. All good. Yeah. So you can find me on Christian Anime Podcast. That is my handle on YouTube. I am Christian Annie Pod on Twitter because Twitter doesn't allow you to go any further than that. But yeah, those are the two places which you can find me. You can message me on Twitter. I am also on Instagram under Christian Anime Pod. I'm pretty sure. No, it's actually the full name Christian Anime Podcast. Is my handle. No spaces on Instagram as well. Which I should probably update my channel about page on that. But yeah, if you just search me up, I am really happy now that whenever you search Christian anime, one of my videos actually pops up now, so you can actually do that as well. So all good.
Cool. There we go. Guys, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. This was we definitely have to do this again. This is like a really fun conversation, and I found out a lot more about the conservative space in regarding to anime. So I am really thankful for you coming on. And guys, yeah, make sure if you guys have questions, comments, concerns, whatever, put them in the comments. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and go to Christian Anime's channel because he is really, really popping. And I think if you want to get him to the leading voice of Christian anime YouTube, you got to go subscribe to him. So guys, make sure you go check out his content. He does really, really good stuff. Like I'm talking about like really, really, like if we're talking about top tier, it's up there, right? So guys, make sure you go check him out. And yeah, we will catch you guys later on the next episode or video. So thanks for coming in.